how do you put your daughter first?
The healing journey is really important. Once you begin that healing journey, you know what the common goal is. I think once my co-parent and I figured out that common goal, we were able to put her first.
Yes.
So we were able to communicate more effectively. And I was able to do more active listening rather than telling him what to do or trying to tell him how to parent. Yeah. In turn, that kind of develops a healthy co-parenting relationship.
Okay. Welcome back to the Black is the New Rich podcast. This is episode 40, and today we got a very special guest with a very special topic that doesn't get talked about enough, because during a child, I went through it, and today we're going to talk about co-parenting and just like the rules and the regulations about it. And there's no real cookie cutter setting that's absolutely 100% right, but I feel like it's an important subject to talk about because nowadays it's such a common thing to see blended families or co-parents working together. And I just want to talk about it because I feel it's important, but I don't want to keep talking. Can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Daly, and I am the author of the Mia's World book series. Currently, we have 2 books in the series. So the first book is Mommy Lives Here, Daddy Lives There. And the second book is Birthday Party at Daddy's House. So I'm an educator, an avid collaborator, but the most important role I play is being a mother to my beautiful daughter, PAIGE MIA, who of course inspired the chronicles of both book series. So really, really exciting. And yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Okay, amazing. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for submitting your business, because I wouldn't have found you. I think when you submitted your business, I read every subscription, and as I read your biography, I'm like, I have to have her on the podcast.
Thank you. Yes.
This is such a topic that, our community needs to hear about. So thank you for doing that. And
thanks for having me.
No problem. And before we get right into the writing of the books and the subject, I just want to take it back a little. And how did you get to becoming a teacher?
So I've always had a niche for supporting youth. Mm-hmm. Prior to working at the school board, I worked at the YMCA, their youth job development program, where I supported marginalized youth obtain whether it's a volunteer position or a paid position. Mm-hmm. So I've always had experience kind of working with that marginalized demographic. Mm-hmm. Being an educator, the school that I work at now also focuses on marginalized youth or youth that how can I say this, learn differently, or it's a vocational school and a trade school. Mm-hmm. So we kind of focus on the trades. And I think it was just the wanting to work with youth and wanting to work with that demographic. Yeah, you felt like it was your purpose. It was my purpose, exactly. And that's where I'm at. I love it. I run a few programs at school, particularly the BSA, which is a Black Student Alliance program or association. Wow. What goes on there? So there was a big thing with the Peel District School Board in regards to how do I say this? In regards to penalizing or focusing on Black students. So a lot of suspensions were happening. So the Peel District School Board wanted to put a stop to that and how they thought or how they think. And I think it's okay to kind of just put a Black Student Alliance or association in every school in Peel. So every school should have an association or a group of whether it's teachers leading or student led, where basically Black students just feel safe. They have a place to come to, talk to, be themselves, share ideas, if they have any issues, around the school. And that's kind of, we use that opportunity to kind of discuss. And
Okay, that's amazing. Jeez. And are you trying to push that into all schools across Peel Board, or? So I believe the Peel District School Board by now, all schools in Peel should have a BSA. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing, because we didn't have that.
No, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't. We just had the corner where everyone kind of hung out. That's where everyone kind of hung out. But I went to St. Joe's. I don't know if you're from Mississauga.
Oh, yeah, I went to Father Gates.
Okay, so we just had a little corner where everyone kind of hung out. So I think it's really good that we're focusing on the Black youth and wanting to see that change and kind of put things in place, resources in place to help us succeed.
Okay, wow, amazing. So the topic of the day, co-parenting. Co-parenting, such a big topic because you see it so much nowadays. And growing up, my parents weren't together, and carry any animosity towards them, but I know that they didn't have the necessary tools to make the situation work, because we're in an information age today. Because I feel like back then it was almost frowned upon to not be with your partner, and now it's like very common. This is a common thing that happens. So I just think nowadays we have the tools to make a healthier situation. So how did this journey start for you? How did it start?
Well, we no longer were together, to be honest. I was in a relationship, 7 years and some, and it just wasn't working out for whatever reason. We just weren't getting along. But we had a daughter, beautiful daughter, PAIGE MIA. And at the time she was about 3.5, 4. And it just wasn't working out. So we went our separate ways. But during that time, PAIGE, very inquisitive, 3 going on, I don't even know, like
30.
So she had a lot of questions. I didn't know how I was going to help this little girl understand what was happening. And like you mentioned, I also am a product of a co-parenting household or relationship. So I just that pondering and not wanting her to have to go through what I went through. And again, no offense to my mom, like you said, they didn't really have the necessary resources, but I didn't want to go through a time where I wasn't able to, she wasn't able to have her share her voice or speak. She wasn't able to tell me how she felt. Like I wanted for her to have an open space and feel safe and comfortable to talk to mommy about what she was feeling. So that's what happened. She opened up. She had several questions. Mommy, why are you not with daddy? Why is daddy not here anymore? At 4. I kid you not. And anyone that knows my daughter, they know she's prime, we would say, in the Caribbeans, right? But yeah, she had a lot of questions, and being an educator, I figured, you know what? Why not make a manuscript and put it in a book? Because she's not the first and she won't be the last that will have questions or will be in a co-parenting situation. So that's pretty much what happened. I kind of put it together. I used the conversation that I had with PAIGE in terms of explaining, you're a lucky girl. You have 2 of everything.
2 Christmases, 2 birthdays.
That's how I explained it. And for me, I had to kind of take that negative and make it into something positive. So although daddy's not here, you have 2 of everything. You have 2 homes, 2 toy boxes. That's kind of how I started the first book. And then,
Wow, amazing. So what type of questions was she asking you at first that almost stunned you? Like, whoa.
Well, why isn't daddy here? Like that was her main thing. Like, why isn't daddy here? Or why are we no longer? She spent a lot of time at Grant. We would always go as a family or together to her dad's house or her dad's mom's house or what have you. So just questions like that, like why are we not going together? Why is daddy not here? Or are you mad at daddy, mommy? Are you mad at daddy? And that's because, and I'll be honest, sometimes I was having arguments in front of her. And during the time where I wasn't able to, I haven't started my healing journey. So I was still angry, still upset, still in my feelings, and still kind of lashing out. So that prompted her to ask questions. And because I didn't want her to feel like how I felt, I was open and answering those questions.
And how do you talk? Do you talk to her in like what? Obviously, she's only 4. Right. So how do you break down the language to explain certain things?
Well, exactly what you said. I'm breaking down the language to her age level. Okay. Everyone knows their child, right?
What does that sound like? Sorry.
So, like I said, PAIGE, mommy and daddy love you very much, but sometimes, just like you and your friends, we parents don't get along, right? And we have to do things like separate, but we still love you. You have 2 homes, you have 2 of everything. And that's kind of, again, I just had to
positive energy.
I had to just kind of reiterate the positive. Like, you're a lucky girl. You have 2 of everything. What kid has 2 birthdays? What kid has 2 Christmases? That's kind of how I had to swing it. And it worked.
Okay.
And again, I will say that may not work for everybody, but that's what worked for me.
100%. And so with your daughter's father, when you decided to do the co-parenting, was he completely on board? Like, what kind of conversations are you guys having to make this work initially?
So I'll be honest, it wasn't all walks in the park initially.
I don't think it ever is.
So let me say the courts were involved.
Yes.
And that almost forced us to do things we didn't want to do.
Okay.
And I don't want to say didn't want to do, but we weren't in the right stage. We weren't ready. We, again, like I said, we weren't really in our healing stage yet. So we were still reluctant to do certain things like mediation, therapy. Just seeking the village. We weren't really prepared to do that yet. Sorry, can you go back to the question?
Yeah, no. So I was asking like what type of conversations were you guys having initially, but you mentioned the court got involved, right? And I've been in that type of situation. So in 2020 hindsight, would you go through the court system again, or how would you do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, so everyone always says, don't get involved with the court.
Yeah,
don't involve the
that's
court.
a stigma that
that's
I hear
a stigma. It's a stigma. For me, you do whatever you have to do to make it work.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
So if that means you're going to therapy, you're, I don't know, seeking the village. So whether you're talking to someone at church or at school or at work or just your family, but I think it's important that you do whatever you have to do. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a situation where it's not working, the father's not, the co-parent, whatever co-parent is not making you see the child or whatever, I think it's important to get someone involved that could help you.
Okay.
And just because you go to court, it doesn't mean it has to be like, there's something called mediation. Right. Mm-hmm. And mediation comes before the court process. So the courts actually encourage you to mediate before it gets to them. It gets in front of a judge.
Yeah.
So my hope is that once you get to that mediation stage, you kind of make it work. Okay. You figure out a plan and come up with a foundation that'll work for you and your co-parent to be successful.
Okay. So like, obviously when you're making a big break like that, a big separation, there's feelings that just go all over the place. Right. And I just feel like during that time, it can be so messy. Like how do you always remind yourself that Paige, your daughter's name's Paige. Yeah. Paige is first.
Like you said, she's a common denominator, and I will never forget that. Mm-hmm. I often use myself as an example, me being a product of a co-parenting environment. I don't want her to have that feeling. Yeah. So that's always in the back of my mind, always. Okay. Just not wanting her to kind of go through what I went through. Yeah. And sorry, what'd you say?
Yeah, no, sorry. I was talking about just like during that situation, how do you put your daughter first?
Yes. So, again, using my example, me being a product of a co-parenting situation, not wanting her to have to go through that. Mm-hmm. And I think the healing journey is really important because I think once you begin that healing journey, you know what the common goal is. Mm-hmm. And I think once my co-parent and I figured out that common goal, we were able to put her first. Yes. So we were able to communicate more effectively. Mm-hmm. And I was able to do more active listening rather than telling him what to do or trying to tell him how to parent. Yeah. And in turn, that kind of develops a healthy co-parenting relationship. Okay,
amazing. So you just said something that caught my attention. You said you're almost letting him be the parent and make decisions, right? Yeah. How do you get to that point? Because I hear that's a common thing. Like, oh, like my baby mom, she doesn't trust me doing this, that, the third. And I feel like that's a common thing. How do you get to that trust? Because I feel like as men sometimes, and I don't want to talk for all, because I don't have my own kids, so I don't really want to speak for them. It's just what I've heard. I feel like they feel, from what I've heard, like they feel like inadequate of being a parent. And so how do you pass that trust on?
Again, everything is situational based, right? Everything, for me and my co-parent, well, first of all, he's the person that I decided to have a child with. Yes. That's the first thing. 100%. So he couldn't be that crazy. Something's got to be good, right? I also feel as though, again, once you focus on the common denominator, you do things, or it forces you to kind of do things to make it work. So like, again, I'll go back to communication. That's huge. Yes. That's huge. And just meeting your co-parent where they are. I think that's important. Again, a lot of times we try to control the situation as moms, we do. Yeah. But it's important to meet that co-parent where they are. So maybe they're not at my healing stage. Maybe they still have some growing to do. Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop them from seeing the child, or I'm going to, okay, you do this, or this is how you do things, or this 100%. Is how you, right. So, just meeting that co-parent where they are and trusting and allowing them to be the parent. Yeah. Right. Okay. But that is hard. Yeah. But I would say For me, I was big on communication. I was big on writing things down.
Yes.
Having things in writing was big for me. That way, when I do say something, you can't say that it never happened. I'm like, no, we talked about this.
So like, for example, if you had to bring up some things, like you would have it like prepared to write down. Was that what you're talking about?
No. So for example, I'm I guess more in regards to like routines and stuff like that.
True. That you agreed upon.
Yeah. So I'd have things in writing. For example, we talked last week that you're going to pick up your daughter on Friday.
Oh, okay. Fair.
Sometimes for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. But I'm like, no.
Yeah.
This is what happened.
Yeah.
And kind of just meeting them where they are.
Yeah.
And pushing the responsibility on them.
True. Okay.
Allowing them to be parent.
Yeah. Okay. Jeez. So boundaries have to be a big thing, right?
Yes.
I feel like what are some boundaries that you've learned over the journey of co-parenting?
So boundaries. First of all, you got to actively listen.
Okay.
That I know it's not really like a boundary, but in order to set boundaries, you got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So active listening, meaning, so you're not listening to respond. Mm-hmm. You're listening to understand. Mm-hmm. I think that's important. And once you do that, then you do things like communication, having maybe a predetermined schedule. And those things will set boundaries.
Oh, makes
right?
sense.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, what else can I say?
Even communication, is it just your daughter, and anything else that's outside of that,
I try not to be, because it's important for your child to see that there's some sort of amicable relationship.
Okay.
There's some sort of a conversation happening.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be friends.
Yes.
But it's important to be respectful.
Respectful. That's a big
right.
one.
It's important to be respectful. So me and my co-parent are not on the phone for hours and talking. But when he does call for her or vice versa, we're like, hey, all good? Okay. And we kind of keep it moving. Or, hey, Paige wants to talk to you today. Like, there's no, and I try not to let her see that side anymore, especially now that we've come so far in our journey.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I don't know
amazing.
if I answered the question.
Yeah, no, you answered the question. So when it comes to, obviously there's going to be a time, let's say when either co-parent moves on with another partner, how do boundaries work with that? And what do you explain to your daughter or anyone that has a child that, okay, this ultimate, not going to be your parent, but some form of authority?
Good question. And I've been in that situation. So, my daughter now is a big sister. Mm-hmm. She has a 1-year-old sister from my co-parent side, which is great. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard. Prior to that, again, my daughter is above her age, so their questions were beyond me even. But just try to be honest. Like, just try to be honest. Like, you know, I still care about daddy. I still want to make sure he's okay, but this is what it is right now, kind of thing. But in terms of setting boundaries, you know what? Just being transparent, being honest with your feelings.
Yes.
And that was hard in the beginning. Yeah. Because I didn't want him to think like I was mad or I was upset or like I was like, you know. Yeah. So I kind of put up like the hard wall or whatever. But
Aquarius wall.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, but I think it's important for me. I just had to be honest with my feelings. Yes. And what I was feeling and what I was going through and being open about those feelings. So I was like, look, like I get you're in a new relationship. I get this is happening, but this is what I expect. Set those expectations. Like, this is my expectations. And go ahead.
No, sorry. No,
that's okay.
No, like, do you ever get the feeling of like when that sort of situation happens, like, oh no, I want my daughter to be treated the exact same. Like
I do, but I don't want anyone. My daughter only has one mom.
Yes.
So, and I made that very clear in my expectations with my co-parent.
So that's a boundary.
That's a boundary. She only has one mom. And that may look like, but in the same breath, and again, this came after my healing journey. Because in the beginning, I was like, no, like,
we're not doing this.
We're not doing this. And not because I was jealous or anything like that, but I didn't know this could have been girlfriend number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So I wanted to really protect my daughter's innocence in terms of not having so many females around or what have you. Not that that was the case, but again, that's what I was thinking at the time. Like, how do I know this is even for real? How do I know that this is what's going to happen? How do I know this is who you're going to be with for the rest of your life and what have you? So I did have those walls up.
Okay.
Obviously, as I went through my healing journey, I've realized that, first of all, the more people that love my daughter and care for my daughter, the better. The more people that nurture my daughter, the better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have nothing against the co-parent at all, or my co-parent's partner at all.
Yeah.
But I think my only boundary was she only has one mom.
Yeah.
So you could care for her, you could, support there or what have you, but she only has one mom.
Yeah. And that's fair.
So like, yeah.
And it goes both ways. Like if you move on later on or what have you, she only has one dad.
Absolutely.
And I guess that would be your conversation too with your partner later on, that, listen, my daughter knows her dad. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Same thing. I think it's just important to be open and have that open dialogue, have that conversation.
Okay.
In terms of your expectations, and just, set those boundaries, but you can't do that without open communication.
Makes sense. So that's like the through line here. The communication is everything.
It is.
Jeez.
It is.
Okay.
Because you can't tell someone, okay, don't do this, but you're barely even communicating with them. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes sense. So when it comes to discipline, because obviously Paige goes to dad's house, Paige goes to mom's house.
Yes.
Discipline can be being separated for amount of times that you guys grow in different ways. So discipline can be different. So how do you guys deal with discipline?
That could be difficult sometimes because daddy's the nice parent and mommy's the disciplinary parent. So I'm like the parent that's always giving her the rules. You're in trouble, you're grounded, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's been times where I'm like, look, I can't always be the parent that's disciplining her.
Yeah.
For example, she's gotten in trouble at school, nothing too crazy, but just some disruptions in the classroom or what have you. And me being an educator, like I take school very seriously. I'm like, what do you mean you're playing around in school?
Yeah.
So I called dad right away on it. Like, hey, this is what happened today at school. And he's like very nonchalant, like, okay, I'll talk to her. And I'm like, what do you... No.
Also too though, because I feel like daddy-daughter vibes are like a little different, a little softer.
Yes. But at the same time, like, can we be on the same page? So I'm not the bad, so I don't always look like the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah. So the discipline.
Yes. So I think it's important to be consistent on both sides. So if I'm taking away the iPad over here, when she goes there, the iPad also needs to be taken away. Okay. I think we need to be consistent when it comes to discipline. Okay. But I also think the discipline has to match the behavior as well.
True.
And sometimes when you have that open communication with your parent, sometimes you could... or the co-parent could, you know what, Vic, like that's a little bit too serious. You don't need to take it that far. It's not too bad. And that's a relationship I have with my co-parent. So sometimes, although I'm like, no, you need to talk to her right now. Yeah. Like I'm pissed. And he's like, look, it's not that serious. Yeah. Chill.
And then you'll calm down.
And then I'll calm down. I'm like, all right, like I'm in mommy mode kind of thing. And I really realize what he's saying. And I'll even message him, go back and be like, shit, you're right. Like my bad.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Okay, well,
but just talk to her. Just talk to her, please. Like, don't worry. I'm going to talk to her when she comes over. But my thing is, for example, let's say she gets in trouble today at school. I don't want you to wait until she comes on the weekend to see you or to discipline her. I think it's important
him to call her immediately,
right?
Kind of thing.
Yeah, or otherwise she'll forget, and it's like, what are you disciplining me for? This happened last week. Right? Almost like a dog. Like you can't, you're trying to train a dog. You gotta, they pee on the floor. You gotta discipline them right there. Otherwise, they're not gonna know. Same thing like a child. And so we're dealing with that now. Like, and he's receptive and we're on the kind of the same page now. Good. But like he's just naturally calm, naturally. So
I feel like I'd be that type of parent.
Yeah. So naturally he's like, you're overreacting, and I'm naturally an overreactor. So but I think it's important to so he'll tell me if the discipline doesn't match the behavior, he'll let me know.
That's a good balance.
But that's a good balance. And because I have the open communication, if we were not at this healthy, positive co-parenting stage right now, I wouldn't even listen to him.
True.
Right.
And that goes back to what we're talking about earlier about kind of like letting him make decisions as a parent, so you guys can come together to make a common.
Right. Okay. And having that foundation.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to obviously co-parenting, you have holidays, you have birthdays, Christmas, and if whatever you celebrate, right? And sometimes that could be tricky because Christmas time comes and kids like to open their presents in the morning. So do they go to mom's house? Do they go to dad's house? When do they go? Like, how do you have those type of conversations?
So for, again, situational based, everyone's different. For me, how we do it is she has Christmas in the morning with me. She's waking up with mommy. That's just how it's going to be. And she'll go to dad's in the afternoon. Okay. And then she'll sleep over and then come back. So it's very fair. We try to be like,
as fair as possible.
Yeah. We're really good at that. So, she'll wake up in the morning with me. have breakfast, and then she'll go dinner with dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's a scenario that I've seen play out different ways with different sets of co-parents.
Let's go.
Birthdays. Okay. So I've seen combined birthdays where both co-parents are there celebrating together.
Yes.
With their partner.
Yes.
Right? If they had a partner.
Yes.
I've seen it also without their partner. Where are you with all this?
Without their new partner?
Their new partner.
So my daughter just had a birthday.
Yes.
October 14th.
Yes.
And we went to normally though she has 2 birthday parties. She does.
Okay.
So we celebrate on my side, and then she'll celebrate at her dad's side.
Okay.
Oftentimes dad still comes though.
Okay.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So on October 14th, which was a Friday, we celebrated at Jackass. It was just a small dinner, and dad was in attendance.
Okay.
There was no one else there in terms of partners or anything like that. Uh-huh. But dad was there. And you should have seen her face.
She was lit up.
When he walked through, she was already happy. But you see when dad walked through those doors, she was enamored. She was excited. She was like the roof.
And that's what it's about, to be honest.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And that feeling for me is all I care about. I was like, oh my God, she's like she's in heaven. That's great. This is all I want. Yeah. As long as she's happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for us, it just works. Like if I'm having a party, he knows to pop in. Yeah. Again, like I said, he's very quiet, nonchalant. So he's not going to be there at the beginning of the party right till the end and kind of mingle with everybody. He's going to show his face closer to the end kind of thing. Yeah. But as long as he show up. Yeah. And he does every time.
Okay. That's amazing. Shout out to him.
He does.
And what about where are your stance with like other partners being involved? I guess I feel like, here's my opinion. I feel like if it's a more serious thing and they've been together for a while and it looks like, you know what, this person's staying. Right. I think I would be like, yeah, bring them too.
Yes and no. Again, it depends on the relationship. Yeah. It depends on where you guys are, and it depends on the space that you guys are in.
Maybe I'm just
right now, I'll be honest. Right now, in the space that we're in, we're not there yet. Yeah. I'm not against it.
Because I've seen it happen with an older, like one of my friends' parents, but they're so far removed, like 20 years removed, that it's nothing.
I could see that happening though. I can. I could see like us having. I could see a huge party where it's just a blended family, mom, dad, this dad, stepdad, stepmom. Like I could see that happening, and I'll be honest. Right now, it's not for me. It's not the time. Okay. I'm not close to it though. Yeah. I do definitely think there has to be some sort of conversation prior to. Okay. Again, just so we could revisit the expectations. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm not opposed to it. Just right now, it's not the space that I'm in.
Okay, fair. And are there any? Well, I'm sure. Obviously, like I can only imagine. Like if I had my own child, I'd be like, who is this person? like what are they about? I want to know everything about them. Is that necessary?
Absolutely.
And is it necessary to actually have a one-on-one conversation with them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And that's
I do think
without the co-parent there, or just one-on-one?
No. I think the co-parent should be there just to kind of help facilitate, the conversation or what have you. Yeah. But I definitely think a conversation should take place before that involvement becomes more, what do I say? Serious,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like obviously when you're moving on and you're dating, like you don't really know how serious things are going to get right away. So when do you think is that sweet spot where you feel like, it's time to tell my co-parent that, hey, I have someone in my life?
Well, your kids will just do that for you. I'll be honest. Yeah. Paige has a big mouth. So fair. Yeah. So she she probably already kind of just tells her dad whatever. But
question? Oh yeah, no, sorry. What was I saying? I was saying, when do you think it's a sweet spot? Yeah.
I think it's situational based. Like there's never really, you never know really. Like people believe in love at first sight. It could get serious from the first time. You know what I mean? So you never know. Fair. I think, but your partner though. Okay. Right? So your co-parent. Yeah. So I think the fact that your co-parent, you'll know, okay, you know what, like
this person's serious.
Yeah, he's getting serious with this person. Like it's time to kind of have that conversation. Yeah. I think it's all about just knowing your co-parent and being open to, if that is the case, being open to having those hard conversations, because it's a hard conversation.
Yeah.
It is, especially to think like, okay, like in my situation, like, okay, another woman kind of mothering my daughter. That bothers me. This is why I said in the beginning, like my daughter only has one mom. And not that my co-parent's partner is trying to kind of overstep or anything like that.
It's just like your mama bear instinct.
That's it. Just my helicopter mom.
I'm not gonna lie, it sounds tough, like to navigate mentally through those type of situations.
I think that's the thing. Navigating mentally, but I think your healing journey will help you go through that.
So I've heard you mention that a couple times now, healing. So your healing has to be an active thing throughout this whole thing.
Yeah. I'm still healing right now. Like that's ongoing. It's on because there's different levels to co-parenting.
Yeah.
As a child gets older, that looks different too in terms of your involvement. As my daughter gets older, I may not be as involved as I am. Right?
True.
Like now she calls him on her own and does all that stuff. But as she gets older, I probably won't even know when she's talking to her dad. She'll be on her cell phone doing kind of her own thing. Then my involvement kind of decreases a little bit.
Does it scare you now about that type of, like when that? No.
I love their relationship. I love that he's so involved.
No, that's really good though. I
love that we're at the point where because like I said in the beginning, it wasn't always like this.
Yes.
Courts were involved. It was very nasty.
Yeah.
It was very hard. So I'm just glad that we're at the point where we both were able to kind of set a foundation, get over our differences, our feelings and our emotions, because that's what it was, whether we want to admit it or not. Get over that and kind of just and focus on the common denominator, which is PAIGE MIA.
Yeah. So for new co-parents coming up, what's some advice that you can give them before it gets to the nasty stage?
Live in your truth. Be in your truth. Be authentic to yourself and who you are, your beliefs, and have that open communication.
Yeah.
I think communication for me is big. It's huge.
Yeah.
When dealing with co-parents, that's huge. It's a big deal.
But is it tricky to talk about feelings knowing you guys aren't on that type of level anymore? So like, I feel like ego, it could get in the way so easily because you want to protect yourself. But that's all vulnerability. We got to be vulnerable. Okay. Right? Having hard conversations is being vulnerable. Like me right now, being on this podcast, I'm being vulnerable. I'm like telling you guys the business. Right? I think it's all about just being vulnerable and being authentic, genuinity with yourself, with your co-parent. And then that will breed positive communication. And conversations. So we touched on it a little bit earlier about holidays and different visitation kind of rules. Right. So what about like when it comes to visitation, like let's say like a Wednesday, dad just wants to pick up Paige or
no problem.
Yeah, that's okay.
And
how do favors work that are outside of the court laws?
You got to bend. You got to be able to bend. You got to be able to bend, and you got to meet your co-parent where they are. So that happens all the time. And both instances. Sometimes, so it's every other weekend for us.
Yeah.
And some
that was
days,
mine too.
Yeah, every other weekend. And then during the week, he'll sometimes take her swimming. She does swimming, so sometimes he'll take her swimming, or he'll just pick her up, take her for dinner, or he'll just pick her up and just hang out with her in the car, or what have you. Yeah,
wow, that's amazing.
So he's really involved. But sorry.
Oh yeah, no, so the visitation.
Visitations, yes. I'm just open.
Yeah.
I'm open in that, and in order for it to work, you have to be able to bend a little bit.
Yeah,
you have to. So just because he's supposed to get her on Fridays.
Yeah.
Things happen.
Yeah, maybe on Wednesday.
Maybe on Wednesday he wants to come instead of a Friday. Sure, great, no problem.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to meet your co-parent where they are. You have to be willing to bend a little bit.
Okay.
Not everything has to be so rigid. You got to be flexible. That's the word I'm looking for. You got to be flexible.
Okay.
You got to be flexible.
Like give and take. Like you do a favor.
Scratch your back, I'll scratch mine, kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Can you let me know like where to get your books?
Yes. So a few locations. So we have a few local bookstores. So Knowledge Bookstore. Yeah. That's in Brampton. Okay. We have Another Story Bookshop, which is in Ronsonsville, downtown Toronto. Yeah. Manifest Bookstore. Shout out to them. They just opened on Eglinton and Little Jamaica. You can find us in there. We're also in some Indigo locations. So we are in Sherway Gardens. We're in STC Scarborough Town Center.
Black owned? Black owned store?
No, we're in Indigo.
Oh, lit.
Yeah.
Okay, congrats.
We are in Global by Blacks in Oshawa. Where else? Mississauga Library.
Wow.
And of course, my website.
Okay. Yeah. And what type of experience can this book give readers, not only the children, but the parents?
For me, use it as a resource. Use it as a resource to help build those conversations. These conversations, what we're doing right now is difficult.
Yeah.
And you and I are strangers, but I mean, imagine a parent and their child. Like, it's hard to have this conversation, or their co-parent.
Yeah.
So I think use this book as a resource. My hope is that it breeds conversation, hard conversations, positive conversations.
Wow, amazing. And are there any more books coming out?
There are. So I plan on following Mia in age. So PAIGE Mia. Yeah. So I plan on following her in age. Eventually, my hope is that she takes over the writing piece, because, like I said earlier, the co-parenting stages look different, or the phases look different as the child gets older.
Yeah.
So my goal is that as she gets older, she'll take over the writing and want to write like chapter books about her co-parenting experience and women's momming and that kind of thing. We do have an activity book that's currently being illustrated. Shout out Joseph.
Nice.
And following that, I want to talk about her being a big sister.
Okay.
For me, I just want her to live out that experience first. I'm big on genuinity and authenticity. Yeah. So I want her to kind of live out that experience first before I write about it.
Okay. And how's that? We never touched on that experience at all. Like, how's that been since she has a new little sister now?
Great. She loves it.
Yeah.
She's excited. She's excited. Mommy, are you going to have a baby? Mommy, are you going to have a baby? I was like, not yet. We're okay. We're okay in that department right now. But I'm like, you don't need mommy to have a baby. You're a big sister.
Yeah.
On daddy's side.
I have a hard question, and you may not know this question yet.
Okay.
When Paige gets older, her sister gets older, birthdays happen.
Yes.
Kids come to the birthday. Is that like a conversation?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. In Mia's case, again, like I said, she has 2 birthday parties.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that she'll have a birthday party on that side where sister will be involved. Yeah. But if she has a birthday party on our side and she wants her sister to be invited, of course, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
I think that at the end of the day, I think that's what it's about, the kids.
It's about the kids, right? And their happiness, their well-being.
Yeah.
And I want to break these generational curses. I don't want her to grow up and
feel tension
or feel what I felt at all.
Yeah. I think, sorry, not to cut you off, but I think that's what I felt growing up. Like, when I go to my dad's house and I come back home, there's just that tension that, like, oh, do I say this? Do I don't like, I was acting this way at my dad's house, or I was acting this way at my mom's house. The rules are a little different over here.
Well, that's why consistency is key, because then you get that, and then you get the child playing against the parents.
Yes.
So, well, how come daddy lets me do this, but you don't let me do that, right?
There you go.
And sometimes, even in my case, sometimes that happens. Well, daddy lets me watch TV, or daddy lets me have a bedtime snack at 11 o'clock, and I'm like, sometimes she's using her head. Sometimes I know he does not do that. Yeah. But again, sometimes they just try and turn you against each other, right? And
So that's another thing you gotta always be aware about.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
These kids are smarter than you think.
Yeah, trust me, because I know, like I said, growing up, it was just different dynamics, and I really, as I was growing older, I seen how different my parents were. Yeah. I'm like, wow.
And I think you touched on something where you mentioned
growing up, going to the different houses.
Something. Yeah,
and seeing how different my parents are.
Yeah. Something about, I was going to speak on it. I didn't speak on it in regards to boundaries, but it's okay.
Okay, cool. I'll get there. So that's co-parenting. I feel like you gave a lot of great information. Is there anything that I haven't touched on that maybe I'm not getting an angle?
No, I think co-parenting looks different for everybody. So I'd say, yes, use it as a resource, as an example, but this is not your situation. I wouldn't this may not work for you. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I just, what I did yesterday, I told you I had an interview yesterday. Yeah. And it was a very interesting conversation, and we didn't disagree. Yeah. But for example, one of the guests on there were saying they don't have no relation with their co-parent at all.
So, oh man, I feel like, long distance co-parent. Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Cause so we have a situation that, we know somebody that does the long distance co-parenting.
That's hard.
That's tough. Cause now they're moved, let's say, the other part of the country, and their responsibilities aren't the same. And so
it relies more on the one parent that's here.
That it relies more on the one parent. And it's just, I can only imagine how that might be frustrating.
Yeah. I'm not in that situation, but like you said, I can only imagine, that may be difficult. But if parents are on the same page in terms of the solid foundation, you know what the common denominator is.
Yeah.
It could work. It's not impossible. There's a lot of communication, open communication and trust, obviously, because your child's now leaving the country to go be with the co-parent, and who knows who's there, maybe their partner or what have you. So I think trust is a big thing when it comes to long distance co-parenting.
So one of the things growing up, and I always felt awkward about it, and again, this is no shade to my mom or dad. Let's say dad buys kicks, dad buys shoes, mom buys kicks, but they want to keep the clothing at their own houses for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, how is that a thing with you guys? Do you bring it home? Or?
No. So she literally has two of everything. Like, I'm not lying when I say that. Yeah. She has her own, like, we don't pack clothes or pack a bag.
Okay. So the clothes stay there. So that's how it was with me. But I always felt weird about that, because what if I want to take what my dad got?
But we're not close. So, for example, sometimes she'll be like, oh, or there's an outfit that she wants to wear, but the shoes that she really wants to wear to go with that outfit are daddy's. I'll call daddy and be like, hey, we're going out this night. Can you drop over those shoes? And no problem. Vice versa. Okay. Or sometimes this is a big thing. I always forget the jewelry. So let's say they're going to a party now, and he's like, shoot, you didn't put the jewelry.
Yeah.
Like, darn it. All right, don't worry. Let's meet up. I'll drop it to you. So again, just going back to being flexible.
Yes.
Meeting your co-parent where they are.
And it's about the child.
So always remember that in the back of your mind. Keep your child first. And I think once you put your child first, emotions, feelings, all of that will diminish.
Okay. Geez, that's a lot of good information, and I thank you for sharing and being vulnerable.
Yes,
because it's hard to do.
It is.
It's a very hard thing to do, and I feel like a lot of people will get gems from this. But before we wrap this up, I want to ask you two questions that I ask everybody on the podcast.
Okay.
And the first one is, I want to know, what is the best and worst advice that you've received?
Related to co-parenting or in general?
In general, life. The best. And you don't have to
worst.
you don't have to say any names, Avi.
Okay. No, the best and worst advice.
Yeah.
The worst advice would be go with the flow.
Yeah. Ooh, why?
Because only dead fish go with the flow.
Explain that. Elaborate.
Literally. Literally. Okay. Only dead fish go with the flow. Wow. I mean, when you're in control, right? Well, depending on your faith, I think God's in control.
Yes, fair.
But for the most part, we're in control in terms of how we navigate through life.
We have control of our choice.
Our choices.
Yes.
Right? Or fair. How we react to things. But going with the flow, that doesn't necessarily give you that control.
Yeah, that's just like letting life take you wherever.
So like life is just beating you up and you're just going with it, taking the punches.
I agree. I
don't believe in that. I believe that you need to stand up for yourself.
Solid ground.
Don't just stat there and take the slaps from the water.
Yeah,
right? You kind of I don't like going with the flow. I think that you need to stand on solid ground and be in your truth. Stand in your truth. Be who you are. I'm a strong advocate I think it's important for people to advocate for themselves.
Yes.
Learn to advocate for yourself. Speak up what you want.
What does that look like? Oh yeah, speaking up.
So speaking up, your expectations. Again, not going with the flow.
Yeah.
Right? Not doing something just because. And let me relate it back to co-parenting. Not staying in a co-parenting relationship just because of the kids. Or a toxic co-parenting relationship just because of the kids. That's not okay. Because kids often pick up on that tension as well.
I feel like that's like an old Caribbean thing too. To just stay in the relationship, the kids, and then when they get older, they're all miserable and stuff. They do.
Or dad just leaves, like in my situation, and then being Caribbean, I wasn't allowed to even ask any questions at all. Dad just wasn't here. So, but yeah.
Interesting.
So best the advice? Worst would be don't go with the flow, and the best would be Best advice I was given. Oh man, this is tough. The best advice. I've been given some good advices.
Yeah, if it's really good advice.
I'm big on village, and I'm big on my village. I have a large village where I take advice, resources, experiences from, shared experiences. So I've heard a lot of good advice. No man's an island.
What? You gotta break that one down.
So a lot of the times we like to take control and do things on our own.
Yeah.
But it's impossible. No one could do things no man is successful on their own.
I agree. 100%.
Right. So I think we need to utilize the village. I'm very big on the African proverb.
Yeah.
It takes a village to raise a child. So I think it takes a village to do anything, not just raise a child.
Yeah.
I think we need to utilize resources, utilize our community, have things like this. So podcasts, conversations, to help one another succeed.
I agree. I agree. Like even with this podcast, like this can't be done by just me. Like Damien's just as important as me. Like, you know,
exactly. And if I wasn't here, what content?
What content?
Right.
Exactly.
So I think no man's an island, and then we just need to. A lot of the times we get greedy as humans.
Yes.
And we try to like money, and just kind of, you know, if I do it by myself, I get more.
Yeah. No, it's not like that.
It's not like that.
No, because when you go together, you get further.
Right. Right.
You know, and I agree with that one. That's a good one. Yeah. Okay. So there's a last question.
Sure.
On this show, we like to make predictions. So in 5 years, I'm going to say, Victoria did say she was going to do that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. So like I said earlier, I do want to follow the character Mia in age.
That's so amazing, brilliant idea.
Yes.
To be honest.
So in 5 years, hopefully I'll have 3 to 4 more books. If I'm following her in age.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm one of Canada's top, you know,
hell authors, yeah, let's get authors. It. Put that out there.
And I just want to be international. So I want my books all over the world, global. I want to be everywhere. Okay. You want to go into, I don't know, Japan, and my books are in the library over there or something. I want to be international. I want to just get the message out there. Because it's a good topic and not too many people talk about it. And I get it. It's a stigma. It's frowned upon. It's negative, but it's happening. So why not make it, normalize it first of all, and make it a positive conversation. Let's talk about it.
How about this? Maybe in 5 years that I can get you and your co-parent on the show. Maybe.
You know what? I think that's amazing. No, seriously. Yeah, in fact, I thought about that a lot. But again, going back to knowing my co-parent, I know him very well. Yeah. And I know he probably would never. Yeah. Not because he doesn't want to share the story, but he's just not, he doesn't put himself out there, right? Fair. But that's my goal too. Okay. So I think so.
I'm putting that out 5 years. I'm planting the seed.
Let's put it out there. Wow. Let's put it out there.
Okay. So we're going to expect your book journey to grow with your daughter's age, and maybe you're
gonna see me back here.
See you back here with your co-parent. That's dope. Can you let everybody know where to contact you?
Yeah. Well, you could check me out on Instagram at Mia's World Book Club. You could also check out my website at www.miasworldbookclub.ca. Also, come have fun with us on TikTok. Mia and I love to dance. We love to kind of just have fun. So check us out at Mia's World Books on TikTok. And
Jeez. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on today, because that was a vulnerable conversation. I couldn't imagine how hard it could be to speak on certain things, because obviously while you're talking, you're thinking about, oh shoot, should I say that? Should I not say that? Yeah. Like, I don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers, but you want to teach and be vulnerable at the same time. That's a hard thing to do. Right. So I really commend you for coming on today, and just letting you know that you're welcome back anytime. Because this is a subject that I want our community to get it right or better and push forward, you know? Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Episode 40. Everything black on black. If I studied that facts on facts.